Hi, it's Craig, the hot tub service tech here, and we're doing some videos as to explain why your hot spring spa may not be heating. And on this video, we're going to troubleshoot why a spa is not heating when it has just a flashing power light. When you have a flashing power light, that's going to coincide with these LEDs on the circuit board. Where the green LED says lim OK, that's probably going to be dark, meaning that your high limit sensor is not okay. And of course your heater on LED that's red is going to be dark. So when your high limit cuts out, it means that your heater has overheated. Once these heaters get up to 118 degrees, that's too hot, they shut themselves down, and that is a fail-safe. Usually the culprit for that happening is a dirty filter, which I discussed on the other video. Also circ pump problems that I also discussed on the other video. So if you have a clean filter, and if you have a good circ pump and good flow, which is indicated by either, the water spitting out of this little 1/4 inch hole in the filter well here, or if you have good flow coming out of your waterfall feature here. In fact, you might even have, good ozone bubbles bubbling up from the bottom there. One of the reasons might be a bad high limit sensor. There's a sensor that senses the water coming in. There's a sensor back there that senses the water going out. If you have a bad high limit sensor, that could be the culprit. Another reason could be is if you live in an area that has extremely hard water, very high alkalinity, very high pH testing water, and you don't get that water balanced, what's going to happen with that high alkalinity, high pH with very hard water is you're going to scale up that heater. That calcium hardness is going to build up on that element. So if you power down and power up the spa, and it starts heating before it goes into that flashing error, you might hear that heater starting to sizzle and hiss and make all this noise. That's a scaled up heater. That's actually very common in an area where you have really hard water and people do not get their alkalinity and pH down into the okay range. Other things can happen where your heater scales up and chunks of calcium scale let loose and they jam up in the ozone injector. You can even run into some situations where if you take this filter out without powering down the spa, and when you lift the filter out of the water, you can kick up leaves and debris, and then that gets sucked down that pipe and then jammed up in your circ pump. So that coincides with poor flow. But those are several things that can cause a spa to go into a flashing red error. If you have a flashing green light, that means that the control thermistor on the input has gone bad. Check for mouse chewing getting in here. I try to keep this screen intact, not allowing mice to get in. Other thing that can happen is if you are trying to get a spa going when it's extremely cold out. It's winter in Wisconsin here. So if you're trying to get this going and everything in there is super cold, down in the 30s, those sensors get too cold. They're not going to give a reading that the circuit board can identify. So if you're trying to get a spa going in the cold of the winter in the 30s, stick a hairdryer in there and try to, warm things up and warm up your sensors. But a few other things that can cause errors is the auxiliary panel at the back side of the spa. If that goes bad, if that does not work, it can interfere with the spa. It can throw it into a flashing red power light. Something else had happened once or twice, a leaking light lens. Way back in there is a big black circle. That's your LED module. And if that's all wet and white and crusty on the underside, and the LED module, the electronics of the LED light is getting wet, that plugs in here to your LED connection in your IC interface. So if you got a leaking light lens that's getting your LED module all wet way back in there, kill power to the spa, disconnect the wires that run to that LED, and power back up and see if that doesn't take care of it. That can happen. I've seen it here and there. So I hope these tips have helped you out, and I hope you learned something. And if you did, be sure to give me a like. Thank you.